All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to episode 6 of the Ink Pod podcast. We have the legendary Nick Wood, who's the VP of Sales for GraphX. Nick, thank you very much for joining.
It's my pleasure. I'm a big fan, so yeah, it's really an honor.
Appreciate it. Likewise, we've known each other for quite some time. Both myself, Sean, we're
Yep.
very familiar with your company, but we want to introduce you to our audience because we think you guys have some awesome products that I think are a great fit for a lot of my customers and for Sean as well. So, Nick, if you don't mind, just jump in, talk a little bit about yourself, how you got into the industry, and what you got going on now.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, it's actually been kind of a wild ride. I've been going on, I think, almost 20 years now. So started out when I was 20 years in this industry. So yeah, coincidentally enough, as everybody kind of falls into the screen printing industry, I wanted to learn how to like make an apparel line. That was like the number one. I had an artist girlfriend at the time. She's like, all right, let's learn how to print. So I hit up my dad and I was like, hey, I want to learn how to get into the screen printing side of things. And coincidentally enough, he worked for a Ford dealership at that time, and working at that Ford dealership was Chris Miles. So Chris Miles, who now owns Nortec Graphics, very early on in the Rionet stage, he's like, actually, we're doing these like classes. You should come take this class and kind of see what it's all about. At that time, I was working for UPS, and they needed a shipping person. So I was like, well, I could learn screen printing, and they actually need to fill this position. And yeah, interviewed, and almost 20 years later, it's just been a wild ride. So yeah, that was it.
So, were you with
Crazy.
Nortec? Like, you started working? Were they already Nortec at that time?
Great question. They weren't Nortec at the time. They were acquiring that company, which Chris was actually based out of Vancouver, Washington. So before Chris went down to Arkansas, we worked like really closely directly together, and that was when Rionet. I think I was employee number 10 or 12, somewhere in that neck of the woods. So it was really, really early on. It was, you were manufacturing the product, outputting the squeegees, burning the screens, scheduling the shipments, tech supporting the customers, being like, all right, this is how mix inks, mix a little reducer in there, get the right squeegee durometer. So it was really the full package, which was a very fun thing to do.
Cool.
Yeah,
So
got
you
your
definitely
feet
got a
wet.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's an understatement. I think you had to really dive into a little bit of everything and make you get a good grasp of the space, right? And they only did screen print stuff, I'm assuming, at that time.
Yeah, correct. Yep. So that was kind of where Roundnet really got their start, was kind of that package. Here's the whole shebang. So you've got your exposure unit, you got your press, you got your squeegees, you got your inks, you got your emulsion, chemicals, all that good stuff. So it was fun, because at that time you're really starting the business, right? And so you
Yeah.
can kind of be that guiding light, and 10 o'clock phone calls of, this is how you burn a screen. Don't worry if you mess up your first one. Like, everybody does it. Like, walk before you run. Take on the single color job before the 12 colors, and just get the right start for sure.
Yeah,
That's
you've always
awesome.
been like jumping into that right away. I think gave you the itch to just keep on helping more people, and that evolved into now GraphX Source, right? So, do you want to tell a bit more about your story, how you got into GraphX, a bit more of the story about graphics as well, and what they offer, the services they do, how long they've been in business? Yeah, I think that's interesting too to know, right?
Yeah, that's a great point, Sean. And like, honestly, when I started to refer Graphic Source, so in its infancy, I saw Robert posting a lot on LinkedIn. Robert's our VP of operations. He runs the
Okay.
Honduras facility, long time screen printing background. So I would see these LinkedIn videos of like, hey, this is how you do a separation. I was like, man, this guy's got chops. And it was always, when I was at Rionet, that was kind of the biggest bottleneck for the most of my clients. It wasn't necessarily the printing side, because you could take a class. It stays pretty static. Once you learn how to burn a screen, once you learn how to print, there's not a lot of variables. You can kind of limit that. Where I saw the biggest problems with my customers, it was always the art. It was always the separations. What mesh count would you use? And like, honestly, like half of my time was like supporting the customers on the art side, print side. So it was really this thing where I started to see it kind of pop up, and I was like, man, use these guys. Like, really give them a shot. And Yeah, I had no idea the size of the company. So when I started to refer the business to Robert, the feedback was always like, man, like I wish I would have found this resource, a decade ago. So, and that was kind of in its infancy of the staffing side of things. So when I started at GraphX Source, so GraphX Source has been around for a really long time. I actually brought
Okay.
some examples. So we used to be Dallas Capital Emblem. So
No
we
way.
Wow.
actually owned like a city block in Dallas. So like,
Wow.
at that time there was like 300 employees.
What?
So
Wow.
they were really able to kind of like, learn how you digitize something. So they built this business on outsourcing tapes back then. It was like a physical tape, so like you plug it into your sewing machine
Yeah.
and go. So yeah, the company's been around since the 60s. I got another little cool
These are
prop
the
for you here.
embroidery tapes, right? That you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So a lot of
yeah.
people don't know that. Sean, did you know that? They used to be on like reels.
I
Yeah,
had no idea at all.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
from there, I guess it went to floppies, if I'm not mistaken. And
yep,
then it went to
yep,
the DST files that, could just
yeah,
Ethernet. Wow, that's
yeah,
cool.
exactly.
Yeah. So you,
So
you would
this is
literally ship customers the tapes.
Yeah, precisely right. Exactly. So, and that at that time to digitize a design, it'd take like a week and a half, like in the
Yeah.
separator in the past where you'd be like waiting on the tape like it's Christmas, you know what I mean? Just like, all right, once the tape comes through. But yeah, this is a really cool little thing here too. So we actually made the patches that went on the Apollo mission.
Oh,
So
wow.
What?
that's a letter. That's a letter from the White House back in the day. So
Wow.
Not
yeah, I mean,
bad.
it's been around forever and ever and ever. But yeah, where we really kind of found our niche is that outsourcing of artwork. That really is where we found that. It's kind of been a crazy hockey stick of growth. When I started, we had 4 people in Honduras. Right now, we're sitting at 550, fully Adobe
Wow.
accredited school. Yeah, it's just
Wow.
been it's like crazy.
I can't even keep up with you guys. Like I keep seeing your posts. It's like we're opening here, we're opening there. We got this
Yeah,
class, and I feel like you're just going around hiring all the graphic design talent out there.
yeah, yeah. So that brings up another good point too. With the school, we have a fully Adobe accredited design school in Honduras. We kind of tapped out that market in terms of designers down there. So we've always found, even with our Thai office, it's better to hire for attitude, train for skill. Like we
Hmm.
have,
Yep.
if we have the curriculum, that's pretty much a guaranteed job. So it's been really rewarding to not only providing positions for a lot of, in San Pedro Sula, there's not a lot of opportunities like GraphX Source. So yeah, it's just not only the personal growth, but then it really it transfers to our customers as well too, where they see the personal growth of their artist. Like Christmas gifts go back and forth, so it's pretty special for sure.
So you said you have a
That's really
Thailand
cool.
location as well,
Yes, sir.
and how many are in that location?
Thailand it fluctuates between 180 and 220, kind of based on seasonality.
Yeah.
Thailand is mainly redraws. We actually do quite a bit of SEPs as well there too. We built out a SEP team that is they process a ton of the web order SEPs, but their specialty is primarily redraws and digitizing. So we actually have, I think we're running 19 single head Tajima Neos out there. So when
Man,
somebody orders,
Tajima.
I mean, they're sponsored by Tajima. Just kidding.
Yeah. Very
But
cool. Okay. Um, and I mean, I'm going back to the tapes because I just literally thought about something. It's still, I mean, the whole tape thing kind of fascinated me, but now I'm looking at it from a different lens because you guys used to literally do the digitizing.
yeah,
So you can imagine like what that's going to add to the lead time for a job. And then on top of that, what if you guys send the tape and they're like, oh, we need a revision?
yeah,
You'd have to
exactly.
like, do you make a new tape or do you have to like send it back and they have to revise that
Yeah.
tape? Like, how does that
I
even
was
work?
back in the postal service days, so it's like, hey, you jump on the phone, you send a fax, and it's like,
Yep.
hey, this is what's wrong.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's so funny. So, I
At
mean,
least
obviously
shipping
there
was
was,
cheap.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, you'd have to charge a lot more for digitized files to your customers. I'm sure it wasn't, I don't even know what the going rate is these days, but
yeah,
I'm sure it was significantly higher back then
exactly right,
Yeah.
exactly right.
because you have the cost of the tape too, right?
Yep, yep, yep. And back in the day, it used to have to be like plotted, so like manually plotting every single stitch, and then it goes to a punching machine and all that good stuff. So
And then you have to
yeah,
hope that UPS doesn't lose the tape, and then you got to hope that the tape doesn't get damaged during transport. Because I've seen them; they're like it's almost like paper, right? Like it's
exactly
uh,
right.
I'm
That's
sure if
right
that
on.
thing gets dropped the wrong way or
Yeah.
gets crushed by another box, you're having to order another tape. So
And
very
UPS
interesting.
never does that, by the way, right? Everything
Yeah.
arrives
No,
perfectly
No,
on
they're
time.
always good.
yeah, 100%.
Talk
Cool.
Yep.
about technology advancing the industry, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
That's
Serious.
massive. Like you can see how it helped the industry move forward and all that. And now we're seeing it with a bunch of new technology coming in as DTF is massive in the last few years. Now you're seeing AI too coming into that to help like a lot of our people that order shirts from us, they use AI to create designs and they sell online, right? So no, massive technology that helped advance pretty much everything. Now you can
Yeah.
order digitizing and what I think it's like a rush a day or like not even, right? That's crazy. Like I'm up and running in 24 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was about to touch on that. It was like, what are your average turnaround times? I'm sure it depends on. So you guys do the embroidery digitizing, you guys do screen seps. What other services you guys offer, and what kind of lead times are you usually looking at with that stuff?
yeah, yeah. We usually try and turn everything within 24 hours or less, unless it's like a weird, unless if we need more information or if it's a funky file, there's always kind of exceptions to the rule, but we monitor our incoming alerts before new orders. So like if there is something that's down on press, like, hey, like Sean needs this SEP done ASAP, like we're going to bump that to the top of the line just so
Mhm.
like we're monitoring alerts before incoming orders. But I wanted to touch on Sean brought up like, what an interesting time to be in the industry. Like I really feel like we are, as things progress, we are on the forefront. Like we are so fortunate to have everything as digital and, as much as we can
Yeah.
proof stuff out before we get on press. Like, I don't know, the companies like Sean and like Zach, you guys are really on the forefront of all that stuff. And I look to you guys for a lot of tech as well too. But yeah, I really feel like this is, you can really grow a business faster than you had in the past, especially if you just have a little edge up on tech, which I look to you guys a lot for that as well too.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I
100%.
think, yeah, I mean, obviously equipment's
Go
one
ahead,
side of
Zach.
things, but yeah, even the way you have businesses now, like, when I started my garage, you have access to the entire world as a customer
That's what I
if you're
want to
selling
say.
on Etsy alone, just funny t-shirts, right? So
Yeah.
you'd be shocked. Like I got some customers that are like in their basement and they're like, yeah, man, I'm pumping like 300 DTG orders a day, right? They're doing several $1 million a year in sales. So I think that also makes it a lot more competitive, right? But you also have a lot more to work with. So if you got your, ducks in a row and you're good at marketing and you're good at figuring out how to tap into these markets, whether they're niche markets or online spaces or whatever the case is, you could really scale business really quick. And we see that customers are like, okay, I need this DTG machine in my basement. And then 6 months later, like, hey, Zach, I need to move out of my basement and I need, two multi-head embroideries and a DTF. And it's just really amazing to see how quickly people that had no experience in the industry at all, like when they started, it was similar to my story. Like I didn't even know how to use Photoshop and I started selling stuff, on
Yeah.
Etsy. So it's crazy to see how someone with no experience could get into this and really take off. Whereas, I'm sure if you look back 20 years ago, it's like, oh yeah, my dad's been in the decorating industry for like 15 or 20 years and I'm kind of carrying on the
Yeah.
legacy and everyone knows us, right? Whereas now you can really come in and just pack a powerful punch off the bat and just get rolling. So it's definitely
Yeah.
pretty
And
interesting.
Yep.
like for me, one of the biggest mistakes I'm still young, but when I started the business is I wanted to do everything. I wanted to learn everything, right? And just like to jump into, for example, as GraphX, right? If you're a smaller shop that's looking at scaling his business and he wants to grow, like for me, I wanted to learn how to I wanted to learn how to do simulated process and all these things. But I got to a point to where at a certain point I couldn't do those anymore. So I had to train somebody to do it. But then they're not doing it as good as you are, and they're not doing it as often as you are, right? Because they're doing it something else in the shop as well. So if you're a smaller shop and you want to scale your business, like the solution graphics brings, or any like digitizer, whatever SEPs guy is bringing, is enabling you to keep doing what's profitable for your business while or like hiring somebody that's really good that doing it every single day to streamline your process so you can still be profitable and not hire somebody for 80 hours a week just to work on your art step, right? So for me, that was
Mhm.
one of my mistakes because I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be the best I could be at everything and understand it and know it, right? I feel like that really shortened my way to success in a sense. It made it longer because when I
Mhm.
went to scale, I was like, okay, well, how am I going to scale? I'm hiring this guy, but he's 10 times not as good as me. Obviously, I've put in 200,000 hours doing this. Like he's put in 3 hours, right? And I'm judging him on that. Well, okay, I should have just looked at GraphX and go online and sign up. Like, I don't know if people know, but with GraphX, you can do pretty much what anybody else. You just go online, sign up, and send your arts to be sepped, right? But there's
Yeah.
also the other side. You want to touch about that, like that too, which I think for me, when you're at a certain point and you want to scale, they like you guys offer a solution where I can have an assistant, a virtual, pretty much a virtual art department running for me. So I can scale it up to 10, 20 art department guys and revise my artwork, separate my art. That's massive. Like I don't see any other company that does separation, artwork, embroidery, all that offer that. So for me, looking at GraphX when I start like now is like, okay, I should have done that way back. Started with just open an account, send some digitize, send some SAP so I can go back and print and do whatever, right? And be more profitable. But now being able to scale too. So when you get so much volume that, okay, maybe I can hire somebody now, GraphX also has that opportunity. You want to touch more about like that aspect of the business, which I find super interesting?
Absolutely. And Sean, one thing that I really respect about you, just to let you know, Zach, I'm not sure if you knew this. We met each other at a MADE class, and
Yeah.
Sean had unequivocally the best questions about SEP. So I was like, this guy could be teaching this class, which I really
Yeah.
respect that a lot. I feel like as every business owner, you should understand every aspect of the business, or at least have some functional understanding, just because, like, that's
Yeah.
what you need to do, right?
100%.
But yeah, it's super respectable. But yeah, you
Thank you.
crushed. But yeah, in terms of scaling, right? That's where the bottleneck. You get to that point where it's when you're so hands on, and that I could just jump in there and do this. Well, those tasks add up, and like
Yeah.
especially when you're running the business, payroll, like all that stuff. If you're jumping on a SEP, that's a really expensive separation. You know what I mean? Like your
Yeah.
time is, you really have to kind of evaluate how valuable that is. But yeah, our biggest growth pattern is we do offer the a la carte services, which are fantastic. And I say leverage that until you can afford the full-time employee.
Yep.
But yeah, where we've really seen the most growth is we offer access to that artist. So when we staff an artist with you, that is your person. They are working for you. We have the structure of it's really cool. So we'll have junior team leads, a team lead above them. The team lead usually oversees anywhere from 12 to 15 people. So if the
Cool.
artist gets stuck on something, they can escalate that up the ladder. Hey, I don't know how to do the SEP. This is not blending right. The customer has this issue or that issue or whatever it is. Or hey, this is a new garment style. AS Color
Yeah.
came out with this new garment style. Does anybody have access to that library? So they're really able to like escalate up the ladder and tap to the left and to the right. So yeah, there's
Eh,
a ton of tribal knowledge in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, that being said, I think it's pretty safe to say that, you know, there's a 95% chance that the, you know, GraphX employee that you eventually hire full time is going to be able to do a better job than someone that you're going to hire. Because at the end of the day, you know, this is an art form, right?
Yeah.
It's something that I often, like, similar to Sean, customers buy an embroidery machine and they're like, oh, I want to digitize. I'm like, are you sure you want to digitize? They're like, yeah, I want to digitize. I want to do everything myself. I'm like, do you know what's involved in digitizing? They're like, no, I'm just going to buy the license. We sell Pulse,
Yeah.
fantastic digitizing software. I'm sure a lot of your team, runs that. It's what we sell in Canada for all the Tajimas. And there's different levels. So there's one that's, Pulse Composer, which is entry level, a couple $1,000. And that's the one I usually recommend for you to get because it's going to allow you to have the ability to have access to all these. I think it's like 100 fonts or something like that. You type it in and just automatically digitize it, and, make some minor adjustments when you receive a digitized file. But then you got like, two or three other levels, Maestro and that kind of stuff. And these are expensive. I mean, you could be spending almost as much as like you did on the single hand embroidery machine, depending on what you purchased. And I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of people really understand what's involved in that. We actually have someone from the Pulse team that does one-on-one training,
Oh,
but
that's
it's a
awesome.
lot. It's a lot to absorb. And I know a lot of people, they can absorb it because again, they're busy running around trying to sell stuff and do payroll and order ink and get shirts and print, and it just becomes overwhelming. And that's one thing that I try and tell people is like, I think you're better off, at least starting when you're a one-man show, which is weird because when everyone's a one-man show, that's when they feel like they need to do everything themselves. But I think that's when you need to leverage resources like GraphX even more, because you don't
100%.
have the time. If you're a big team, and we could talk on this after, you have the budget to have an in-house, digitizer, was when you're starting, you don't. It's difficult. And you're not going to get that quality. So you're already at a disadvantage because you don't have time. You're not going to have the years of experience under your belt to put out a good product. So it's going to take you longer to get out jobs. The quality is going to be inferior compared to if you outsource to someone that really knows what they're doing. And it just becomes overwhelming. And people buy the software, they might use it for a little bit, and then they're like, okay, Zach, 3 months later, I need a digitizer. We see this all the time. So it's something that I try and educate my customers on. But again, if someone says they really want to do it, I tell them it's like a hobby in itself. Like, do you want to really learn how to digitize? And to that point, Nick, we talked about, the importance of like a small company doing digitizing services, but I'm sure, and we could talk about the affordability and what it looks like for a month. I'm assuming, the reason why, I mean, let's not beat around the bush.
Yeah.
Reason why we're outsourcing to Thailand or South America is because labor's cheaper, right? So,
Yeah.
in your experience, are big companies using your digitizing services that do have the budget, and B, does it end up being cheaper than hiring someone in North America to do that full time? I think those are very important questions.
Yeah, those are really solid questions. And like, to your point, I think, just like Sean, having that fundamental knowledge is important. So, with those pieces of software, learning them and really understanding quick edits, when to send, the small pieces of digitizing. Sometimes the auto digitizing does a really good job, so understanding the fundamentals. But yeah, I mean, when it is significantly more cost effective with anything complex. And like, to give you an example of some of the customer lists, like we do Nike Golf, TaylorMade, Callaway, Travis Matthew, Titleist, Odyssey Putters, Jack Wolfskin. So these are some massive organizations that
have the
that
budget.
yeah,
They could
yeah,
hire a team if they
right,
wanted to of graphic
right.
designers.
Precisely, and what they're seeing is the consistency that GraphX Source offers. So oftentimes that if you hire a graphic designer, you're lucky to have them for 5 years, maybe 6, maybe 7. It's kind of a revolving chair, and the ramp up to train that person once they leave is a real pain in the butt. So with our staffing model, build the SOPs. So like, we'll learn the company's inner workings, make sure that not only the artist understands what those SOPs are, but then the team leader. So if there's a call off on our side, then we have a person that just jumps right in, maybe not operating at 100%, but at least like 80%, to where try to be that forever option, once we
Oh,
learn it, you kind of set it and forget it.
I get this all the time from customers. They call me up and like, hey Zach, I've had my graphic designer for 10 years and she just quit, and I didn't
Mhm.
get 2 weeks, or I get 2 weeks and it's like I have to find someone within 2 weeks, and it's not easy to find these people. And then again, like,
No.
you're not just looking for a graphic designer. You're looking for someone that has graphic design background, but knows how to, has this skill set, which is not easy to find, right? So a lot of times shops are like dead in the water. They're like, I literally can't do nothing right now. I need to outsource, like not outsource the digitizing. I need to outsource my work until I can figure out what's going on. It's a very
Yeah.
common issue. And one thing that you mentioned was, in Thailand, for example, I think you said it was whatever, 180 to 220 based on seasonality. Well, I think that's so important for businesses because let's face it, in certain times of the year, like for example, my business in POD, October, December, the month before Father's Day, it was crazy, right? But January, like volume drops 10 to 12 times. So if you take that, not just the POD industry, but a lot of my screen printers and embroiderers are really busy in the summer and then they're dead in January,
Yep.
February. So do they have that flexibility when they work with graphics to be like, okay, well, I'm going to do a la carte this month, and now next 3 months are turbo, so I need a full-time designer, you know?
That's a really solid question for sure. So we try to adjust via like oftentimes too. It's more so like, hey, we need overtime hours. Like we need more bodies
Hmm.
like thrown at it, and we're really good about being flexible. Having flex schedules to where we can scale up or scale down, because that's seasonality is everything in printing. And like the old, December and Jan, kind of just, it's always kind of this dip and then it just, skyrockets back off. But yeah, projections are really what we do best for sure.
But I think like
And
having the team there helps too, like especially in the slow months. It's pretty much it's a staff person, art department staff person, right? So if you want to enhance your mock-ups, if you want to do something like that, they can work on that with you on those months. I think that's a big advantage of like using a staff person instead of just going a la carte, right? And like not just to the advantage of me knowing how to screen print and how to SEPs and how to do digitizing and all that is just at like at the beginning, like we use GraphX for SEPs and things like that. It was just, I was describing what I wanted better and the result was just perfect every single time. But then I understood when I saw, so we have an LTS, Zach, we talk about that a few times. So we sent some SEPs, right? Some simulated process stuff and it came back. It was SEP'd in halftone, pre-halftone. I didn't have to go in my RIP software. I was like, all right, they know what they're doing. The angle is set properly. And I'm really picky, right?
Yeah.
So I looked at that. I was like, oh, okay, that's good. So then the next order, I just said, here's the screens I have. Here's the press I have. Here's the how many flashes I own. Here's the RIP software I'm doing. And here's the artwork that we want to do. I didn't say what ink I was using, what like they knew we were water-based inks, but I didn't say, okay, I want an HSA soft on the first one. No. So they did the second step. It was 230 first mesh, 157. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that's cool. So I think, like Zach, you were saying, you like the 95% you can do better, and like your staff is not going to do better. I'm telling you, 100% certainly they're going to do better than you. The only difference is that you're maybe,
I was
maybe
hoping there's 5% out there that are superstars that you might get lucky. Not even 5%, eh? No chance.
Zach, okay, maybe you are a superstar, but where you're going to be the superstar is actually on press. You're going to like your screens are not going to be, you can't make your screens better than whatever they're going to make, right? So the screens are going to be amazing. If you have a good EOM, you know how to expose your screen, you know how to do that. That's going to be the best. Where you're going to be the superstar and like have a really good press operator is how he's going to make his inks. The way he's going to put it on press, the flow of the way he's going to put it on press, the palette temperature, that's really where you're going to add speed and add efficiency. But like your art team, there's no way I can make it better. Like when I saw the RIP file that was halftone, I was baffled. All right, this is nuts. This is insane.
Yeah,
this is a lot better than what I could do.
That means a lot coming from you, Sean. Just to let you know, man. That
was
my heart, bro.
When I saw that, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna mess on press and play with my inks. I'll stop doing that. So yeah, I think you can be proud of like what you do and separated artwork and like there's a lot of pride in separating artwork, and I think it's an art in itself and awesome to people that want to do that. For me, I want to be able to run shirts and make money at the end of the day so my staff can be happy. I can pay them good. We can make a good living and offer a great product to my client. When I'm not there and I'm working 3 hours on the SEPs, it's not good for my business. It's not fair for my staff. It's not fair for my employee and my clients that want to talk to me. So I can't do that, right? It doesn't make sense. So that's just a small point as to like, okay, GraphX knowing that, and there's probably other businesses out there, not just to say how GraphX is good, it's because we use you guys, but like find the solution for you if you want to scale. Like if your goal as a small business is to scale, I think sooner than later you should have an art that's not in-house, and not just for pricing, but just for like streamlining everything. And if you want to start à la carte, I say jump both feet in. Don't do, okay,
like, what's
this
that?
is one job I'm not going to do.
Sean, you were hard on the French accent there, man.
A la carte. Hey, it's a French word. À la carte. À la carte.
I was like,
no, but I'm just saying, like, à la carte. Yeah, I'm just saying, if you want to jump into it, do it, like, go all in. Go print. Go sell. Go do whatever, and just do it so they're all doing everything, right? It's going to be a lot simpler and you're going to be able to scale. That's my, like, what do you guys think? That's my 2 cents as a business owner, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you nailed something really important there. Again, I'm talking about the challenge that people need to go overcome within their head when they're starting out, that they need to do everything. That's always like every entrepreneur's thing. I need to do absolutely everything. Right. But again, like you're an experienced printer and you got the steps from them and you're like, wow, right? And when people are starting off in screen
Yeah.
printing, they just don't know how to set up their press. They don't know which screen should go where, what mesh, do I need a cool down station? Do I put this after the flash? There's so much that goes behind that. And people will try and do it themselves, and they're going to just print garbage for God knows how long. And eventually they're going to come to the conclusion that, like, hey, I need to figure out a better way to do this. Or their business is going to suffer because they're not going to be able to put out quality of product that some of these other shops are going to be. So I think that a service like GraphX takes away the thinking, right? It
Right.
takes away the knowledge that you need to have, where it's kind of like, here's the recipe, just follow it, do this and you should get a good print.
Yeah, I think another aspect that kind of got brought up in this conversation too is it buys back the business owner's time. You know what I mean? So like that aspect of it, like I've been seeing Sean's workouts, man, like, anything that cuts into that time, or like, shoot, this little metal nugget, like I can't go home at the end of the day because I have to get this proof off to this customer. And I promise this proof to this customer. Having somebody there that's running in the background, that's plugged into your Printavo, ShopWorks, whatever ERP system you're using, as soon as you change that status, it notifies the artist. So they're working on it on your behalf. So it's not, and you don't have to babysit somebody like, hey, I needed this proof. Where's it at? Like they understand their work order, which is great too. Like, especially with the Honduras staff, like there's not an ego, like I'm not going to do this right, or whatever it is. Not saying artists are that way, but sometimes
I get it. Yeah.
They just understand the assignment. So like once that status is changed, they're in there operating as if they were you. So I think buying back the time is big.
So I think it's fair to say that, especially based on Sean's, you'll definitely get a better quality product. But again, like, a lot of customers, when they're starting out, or a lot of my clients are like, financially, does it make sense? Like I've to be honest, I think I looked at, years ago, is hiring a full-time designer with you guys, going to be cheaper than hiring someone full-time in an average shop in North America? Like, is there cost savings there as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll touch on that one too. One of the best case studies early on, like Barrel Maker was the first one that I had kind of used them as like, that was the first person that I was like, hey, try these guys, right? Their in-house artist was getting paid $65K a year. And I knew him. He was a good guy, but Mondays he was hungover. Fridays it was like, all right, I'm going home at noon. You know what I mean? Like clockwork. It was like interpersonal issues and all that kind of stuff. We came in at 24 to his 65 and outproduced him. Like
24,000 a year? Or is that what you said?
24,000 a year.
Wow.
Yep,
But that was a long time ago. I mean, what is it now for someone annually?
Yeah.
Are there different packages based on, or is it just like, here's a monthly rate? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. We got the good, better, best, just like everybody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
$2,200 as a production artist, separations, redraws, proofing, all that kind of stuff. Halftone Hero, which is like the more advanced artists, creative simulated process separations. That's $3,000 a month. So, but that's out the door. There's no Adobe licenses. There's no payroll tax. There's no computer upgrades. There's no,
sick
power,
days.
Sick days. Right. Exactly. And we work 1-to-1 with US based in Canada schedule. So we're like, that's
diva
the
personalities, which you're kind of touching on there. Like some of these graphic designers, it's like the screen print operator, they know that they hold the power. Like if they're in a bad mood and they don't get something done that day, you're not printing shirts, you're not making money, make me happy, or you're in trouble, right? So we see a lot of that.
Yeah, that's where I feel like I have a really good grasp on my business, is because like the culture that we have with the staff and everything. We implemented so many things to help that culture build, and now like everybody really loves their job and love being here. But to go back to what we were saying, not even like the printer side or like the artist side of like having those guys, it's more like if you're a smaller shop and you don't see where this could fit in your shop right now, look at last year and tell me how many wastes that you did and what was it caused by. So if your waste was caused because you did a mistake in your art sep, or your print size was wrong, or your markup was not set up correctly, that's all going into the pricing of having GraphX there, enabling you to go back to sales or enabling you to go back to printing. So as a shop owner, you have to think about those things. Hey, okay, I don't have the budget right now. Well, why don't you have the budget? Because last year I did $40,000 of waste because misprinted, not the right size logo, not the right Pantone color, the mockup wasn't right. That's all because of you as an artist learning, right? So Zach, you were saying earlier, like you want to learn everything, so you're going to print scrap, right? And you're going to waste money. At the end of the day, you're paying to learn. Whether you go to school, whether you're building your own business,
Yeah,
you're going to be paid. You're going to pay to learn, right? You're going to pay by mistakes, and then when you make that mistake, hopefully you're smart enough not to make it again, right? That's how I like when I look at people. I'm like, oh, he's really smart. Is because he learns quickly. He makes a mistake. He paid for it, and he's not going to do it again. That's my
sure.
2 cents as how somebody's smart. But you're gonna have
The,
to pay anyways. Like I
yeah,
paid a lot of money learning how to do those things, and
Yeah.
even if it's a small, simple order of like a vector artwork, a white vector artwork, we can all accept that, right? But if I take that time to do that and it's not streamlined, I'm 1 feet in, 1 feet out. I'm
Right.
not all in. That's my biggest 2 cents. Go all in, send it out, and take care of what you're good at, which is learn how to print really well. Talk to your suppliers about the inks. Talk to your suppliers about the screen mesh you should use, how to print it. What's the speed? What's the squeegee angle? What's the temperature in the oven? What's low cure? What's the under? Like, there's so many variables in this industry that it's so hard to be really, really good. I had sleepless nights just trying to learn and printing shit. I had wasted scrap just printing. So for me, like the reason why I'm so emphasizing on this is if I can help one printer out there not go through what I did and save some money, that's that's my 2 cents. That's all. Like that's why I'm passionate about this right now.
Bro.
It cost me a lot of money to learn, and I'm proud of that. I learned it, right? Like now, it's an ego side of things. Like, oh yeah, I can sub arts. I'm really good at doing it, but it didn't bring me anything, right? At the end of the
no.
day, I'm scaling the business. I'm not doing it now. So my
Yeah,
two
I mean,
cents.
the problem is you're someone who's
Yes.
yeah, you're someone who stays on it, right? But there's a lot of people that get discouraged. You know, they give up. Like you're resilient, right? But there's a lot of people that are like,
Yeah,
oh, this is too hard. Just forget it. This is not for me. And that's why you go online and you see all these, screen print packages up for sale. It's like, oh, bought this a year ago, brand new, probably printed 100 shirts. Why'd you only print 100 shirts? Probably because there was somewhere that
it
didn't
was
even
hard.
allow you to get 100 shirts on the press, right? So there's a good chance it could have been artwork or maybe just a terrible salesperson or whatever the case is. But generally, there was some challenge in getting work onto the press to begin with, right? And I know we're
Yeah,
talking a lot about screen printing, but on the embroidery side, you guys, I mean, everyone listening to this podcast gets plagued with, hi, I'm whoever from
Yeah.
digitize. Like you just get killed. Like on my Facebook, on my phone, on my RB digital email, on my Instagram. Like I probably
bro.
get 10 people a day trying to sell me digitizing services. I'm like, please,
Let's be
like
honest.
at
It's all
least
because
spend
of InPod.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, spend 2 seconds and like go through our RB Digital Instagram and just see that I sell equipment, but I get killed with it, right? So you're getting plagued with digitizers hitting you, and they are so cheap. I mean, some of these guys are like $5 US, $7 US.
Yeah,
And again, you're new to the industry, you're trying to cut corners. And I want to explain a situation that I come across very often, and it kills people. And we have customers that buy, they got the money, they want to invest in good equipment, they buy a Tajima. Okay. You're buying the gold standard. You should be good. Right.
Yes.
Then we have customers that are starting on, they're like, Zach, I keep getting thread breaks. What's going on? Constantly thread breaks, nonstop. And we're just like, I don't know. Like, my tech was there. We ran a bunch of jobs, some complex ones. Everything was good. We're like, no, every job I run now, it's all messed up. This machine sucks. We're like, okay. And then we head out there and the machine's fine. And then we're like, can we look at the digitized file? And the tech takes a look at this and he's like, this is the worst file I've ever seen. And, you know, often because a lot of these companies are charging $5 or $7, they're using this auto digitizing software.
Right.
And what ends up happening is you have like, stupid paths that you shouldn't be, which is what's causing thread bakes, or 30% more,
density. Yeah,
stitches than what you need. So you're paying less for the file, which is going to give you headaches. But then your run times, instead of something taking 6 minutes, you're like 19 minutes. It's like you're losing all around. And now you got way more thread on the garment. So the customer's not happy. It's just like a lose all around. So my question to you, Nick, I know a lot of people, eventually once they deal with these inferior digitizers for a long time, realize like, hey, something's going wrong. Maybe it's RB Digital saying like your digitizer sucks, find something better. But how do you guys combat that? Because it's like you got companies are charging nothing. And I don't know. I'm not familiar with your matrix, but do you have something that's like, oh, if it's 4,000 stitches, it's this
Yeah.
much, and I'm sure it's gonna be way more than what these guys hitting you on Instagram are charging you.
Yeah, that's brings up another really good point. You know, and it's like, what's your so there's two things. There's one, like, run times. You know, if it's 30% more, then you've just eclipsed, you know, the $5 to our $20 digitizing, right? So, but that being said, too, like, we eliminate, like, all the keyboard text. We eliminate, you know, like Sean brought up the underlays. I mean, that's what makes or breaks a file. So, like, when we do digitizing it, if it's going on a cap, we sew it on a cap. If it's going on a toque or a beanie, as we call them down in the US, we sew it out on a beanie. If it's going out on a sweatshirt material, we sew it out on a sweatshirt. So that's a big differentiator. And, like, you know, even me as, like, a supplier in that space, I still get spammed. And it's always like,
Oh yeah,
they're starting to get creative with the names too, you know, where it's like, it'll be like Michelle
Nick
Pfeiffer.
Wood.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
always it's always white people with, like,
Yeah,
James Oster, like, as white as can possibly be.
yeah,
And the picture too, their Facebook profile. It's a white
yeah.
guy, right?
I'm like, hey,
But he
I'm
lives
like,
in India.
who's that sliding in my DM?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Sean brought up exactly the same point. You know, it's like, if you want it done right, you know, we're the company for you. If you want it done with those, the thing about it too is a lot of the overseas companies will use, like, cracked software, you know, so even the file that you get back, you know, you have to worry about that kind of stuff as well too. So yeah, it's just, you know, if you have to ping pong a file back and forth 3 times, you've eclipsed, you know, it's like you both have said, what's your time worth, you know?
Yeah. So it's safe to say there's a very good chance that these guys are charging $5 US, don't have a brand new Tajima, and embroidering it on a sample toque.
Right. They're running
Right.
pirate software. Exactly. And they're
Yeah.
like, you know,
It's a
it'll be
shot in the
fine.
dark.
Yeah.
When when it looks too good to be true, like, oftentimes it's not, right? It doesn't make sense. And I mean, you're a shop owner, you get hit up every single day by digitizers. Just the first thing in my mind is, like, look at their website. First of all, do they even have a website? Can you go and upload your artwork there? Do you have an account where you can go and download all your files there afterwards? If first of all they have that, then there's a nice step. I would maybe try them out. If they're $5, I'd be scared, but at least they have a website, they have a portal, they have something where you can go and get your artwork back, right? If it's all sent through email and there's nothing there you can find online, I would just block that contact and just never contact him again. For me, it's just when it looks too good to be true, oftentimes it's not true, right? It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Like, so you're not going to give them your Amex. You're not sending their Amex by email to them.
Exactly.
Like, please send credit card.
I mean, at a certain point,
I promise I won't do any shopping.
Yeah.
It's just like Best Buy.
Yeah, when he asks you for your credit card, don't send him a picture.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could ship this to Pune. Like, all right.
The TV's like 900, shipping's $3,500. No signature required. Oh man.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Big Sean, I wanted to ask, man, what are you seeing up there? What's the pulse on the industry like? Obviously, you stay busy all the time. You know, like I keep tabs on you better than anybody else. You know what I mean? So yeah, what's the pulse that you've been seeing up there?
So we're seeing a massive growth online, especially since COVID, right? And now we're actually going on demand. So we're going to go start offering print on demand. We got three clients that we signed up that are actually pretty big clients that we're happy to start with. And we now have the possibility with Principal to do print on demand, which is massive for us. Like the market is there. The market wants it. Right now, the market's at $5.3 billion a year market cap. And they're looking at 2033 to be around $30 billion market cap. And I think the reason why is just because DTF, right? You look at, in my mind, in the near future, is going to be big brands like Nike, Under Armour, things like that are going to partner up with companies where they're going to make their own blanks, but they're not actually going to print them. What they're going to do is they're going to make their own blanks, drop ship it to a print on demand company where they're actually going to go and print on demand for them their design on their blanks, because you can actually compete with screen printing now with DTF. Yeah. And like we went to Long Beach, right? I saw you, like, just to say, small insight. I wanted to talk to Nick 4 times at the show, but man, this guy was so busy. He was talking to somebody every single, like that show was crazy for you guys. But
Busiest show we've
yeah,
ever had, hands down.
so we bought some, actually it's brand new, just came out. It's some projectors that you can put on your machine. That's insane. So we have those, they're installed right now in our stalls and on our rock for stamping with the Stampinators. It projects exactly, for example, you can scan and have your image show up, but we didn't want that. What I did is I went into Illustrator, I created all my art file and everything. So my left chest is always at the perfect spot. My rectangle for my full print is always there. There's a center line, there's 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch. So that's where the market's going to be, because I can take any shirt, put it on my Stampinator, run a DTF, place the artwork with a laser, and run 400 shirts an hour on demand.
Absolutely.
With DTF. So like my pulse on the industry, where I feel like it's going to go for on demand, that's where it's going to go. You're still going to get your large volume orders like screen printing. Everybody's saying screen printing is going to die. It's not going to die. Events are still going to use it. You're still going to have your marathon, New York Marathon, all these things. Like they're still going to be there. Like the events are not going away. You're still going to print for schools, things like that. So for us, we switched to online this year, and now offering print on demand was massive. We completely switched our business. So it was really, really good for us. And yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Sean, that's incredible, dude. Just to let you know, man. Like that is like
Thank
so
you.
forward thinking. I mean, that is what you are the pro at too, is like identifying what that next step is. You know, like oftentimes when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to think 2 steps ahead. You know, like okay, let's not think 2024. Let's think 2025. You know, so
well, I was lucky because I was able now to delegate with things like GraphX, with things like having a really good team culture and helping us grow, right? So we really, really invest in our team and the future of our business every single year. We could pocket 300-400K more in every year in our pocket. We decide to reinvest in the business always. Why? Because we're going forward, right? We're not thinking how much benefit are we going to be at the end of this year. We're always thinking, where do we want to be in 10 years? So if we want to be in 10 years bigger than we are today, then we're going to do the right thing. If we make a mistake for a client today, we're not going to be like, oh no, fuck you, and we don't want you anymore because we want to make the biggest profit right now in our pocket. We're always going to think, okay, 10 years down the road. So that's our mindset for everything, right? But yeah, the industry where it's going, we're seeing with large clients, like the reason why we went online is because our main business was only doing brands for 7 years. That's all we were doing. But every single year, their orders were getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And we're like, what's happening? So we were growing as a business. We were acquiring new customers, but the order volume was just dropping. Instead of being runs of 5,000, there were 3,000, and then 1,200, 1,500. We're like, all right, that's it's fun for the press operators because they're switching jobs often. But us as owners, we're like, all right, where's the industry going? And just having the opportunity for them to now say, hey, we can link up, do fulfillment and do drop shipping. So, hey, run your big volume with us still. We're going to store as a 3PL, and now do a bunch of, like, all your designers, have them just do designs every single day. Pump out designs and try to sell them. We have your blanks on stock. That's massive for us. The big money maker for us is on demand.
So
I'm seeing this transition like even into the retail side of things. I mean, at the end of the day, you used to see these huge runs. But the problem is, these retail chains have a massive amount of exposure, right? So you're printing, 10,000 shirts on, you're only picking 1 or 2 colors and hoping that those ones hit. But then you don't know if you're going to sell the smalls or the mediums or the extra larges. It's like when you guys go to like the sale rack in any of these stores. It's like, oh, awesome. Let me see if they have anything medium large. Nope, they got extra smalls, and triple XL, right? And they're afraid because then they have to discount the product, right, to try and move it. So there's a lot more exposure for them. One project that we completed, I think it was when like pandemic had just hit. I don't know if I could say the name, but a very large Japanese retailer, retail, we started working with. And they actually have brother machines now in the open in their retail locations, right? And they'll have a small, a medium, a large, and an extra large, one of each shirt. And then as one sells, they have an employee that prints it on the brother and then hangs it back up. Okay. So they have no exposure to having dead inventory, and you can be current and try new designs. And hey, something's going out, something's happening in the media or whatever, celebrities, and they could throw a design and see if it hits and just go printing them, right? So it's very
Yep.
interesting to see that, yes, big brands are focusing more on POD, but even on the retail side of things, you're starting to see a lot more like printing in the retail location. You see a lot of
Yeah.
these custom t-shirt shops that are popping up everywhere. Generally, they're printing a lot of copyright stuff. I don't know how they get away with that, but you're starting to see. Literally, I'm like, whoa, you have all these licenses, cool. But you're starting to see a lot of these places constantly pop up, and the big retailers, they're seeing that that's a viable option for them, right? They just stock the blanks, so now you have, a blank in 8 colors, right?
Yep.
That can be applied to 500 different designs. And what's the worst case scenario? You're going to have one in each size that's left over. So I'm seeing a lot of that happening. I mean, that I think is kind of a really cool shift. I think it's taking it one step further than the POD.
It's
But
great
yeah,
for their
and
retail. It's great for their retail model because the volume is not that large, right? They have, because I
mhm.
went to Disney and they have the Uniqlo, right? The red box square Uniqlo,
Uh,
and they have three
we're just 1 year
DTGs there.
down. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a
Um,
Japanese retailer.
I
I
figured
know.
it
That's why I said
Okay,
it.
I wasn't
Anyways.
sure, but
the
you
one
said it, not me. I
legit.
can't get in trouble for
So you
that.
went, yeah, I went in the store and then you see they have three DTGs, right? But on their website, as a retail store, they're able to do that and produce that on a day to day. But on their retail website, they're probably processing around 50,000, 60,000 orders a day, right?
Dang.
Oh
They're
yeah,
probably not able to offer that. So the only person that could offer that for them is a POD, like a large POD shop that would be able to offer that. So I
100%.
think this is where what I'm saying in the future, I feel like this is where it's going to go. Like Under Armour, Nike, all those big brands. I feel like this is where they're going to go because their advantage, what is it? It's their blank, right? Everybody
yeah,
wants their blanks. So if
Exactly.
they
yeah,
can control that, then I think they're going to control their market, and then print on demand companies are going to jump on. Because if you can pay me $3-4 for a DTF print that I can do 405s and like 400 to 500 an hour, and I'm profiting 250 like a pop. Oh, I'm gonna buy a shit ton of Stampinators and rocks and just run that all day. Like
woo,
I don't care. Yeah, like you know what I mean. And now with the
yeah,
projector on the machine,
yeah,
it's almost bulletproof. But like
yeah,
Nick, you're in touch with the industry and like a lot of shops every single day. What do you see
Absolutely.
happening now? Like you guys are probably vectorizing a lot more of the artwork as well because you guys do that as well. You don't only separate and all that. You can vectorize, enhance.
Yeah.
Like you do a lot of stuff for shop owners. So
Yeah.
what's coming in now? What's hot? What's trending? What do you see more?
Dude, I mean, everybody has to bring it up. AI, man. Like our
Yeah.
team is using AI a ton. Like our creative team, so we have 110 people in our creative department. They looked at AI initially as like, as the devil. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
take our jobs, all the creativity. But once they started leveraging it as proof of concept, because like that's one thing about, every, whether it's DALL-E, whether it's ChatGPT 4, like Mid Journey, like
Yep.
nobody ever reads the fine print, and we have to at the company, at the size we are. So like there's still a 30% variant where you have to change it. You know what I mean? Like, and
Hmm.
that's nobody ever brings that up, right? So
Yep.
our team will use it as proof of concept, and then the illustrators will then go through and change it and really update it. But that's been like a big push on the creative side. But yeah, I mean, we've seen DTF kind of really come in force, and like a lot more file prep for the DTF side of things, and like building out some custom scripts and automations. Like that's where we've seen a big growth. I think down in the States, like there's a what I've been seeing is there's a little bit of a consolidation going on in shops, which I think is a good thing. Like meaning that, the medium sized shops will learn that it's maybe more effective to or cost effective to like outsource, like
Yep.
the more established shops and the Sean's out there of the world have seen a lot more business come their way, and like the medium sized shops just organizing a network of like, hey, what's my time worth? It's better just to send it to somebody that's going to be done 100%, right out of the gate. So I like that. I think it's healthy for the industry. And, if you're better at sales, focus on that and leave the embellishment to the pros for sure. we're seeing that down here, which is, it's
Smart.
what needed to happen for a long time. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
Especially with the
What?
cost of entry to market
Yep.
for DTF now. Like it's
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like one way or another, every single episode we're talking about DTF. It's
I
just
know, but like it's such a big part of the industry. And like there's a lot of printers now just popping up, like you see on Facebook. Oh, we offer DTF. We offer like they're offering up
yeah,
as a print
Yeah.
shop owner, but like having the opportunity, especially in the States, to be able to outsource for screen printing when you get those large orders. Cause let's
Yeah.
be honest, getting a 350 unit order with DTF when you have a small one heat press, it's going to
Mhm.
take forever. Like
Right.
we're
Mhm.
lucky we have the stamping area. We're lucky we have dual air fusion. Like we're dialed to do volume with DTF. But when you start and you say, I have a roll to roll, cost me 50 grand and a small heat press, you're not dialed to do volume at all.
Yeah.
no,
You're
So
going to be there all day. It's like, again, what's
exactly.
worth, you know what I
but
mean?
they'll do it.
Exactly.
That's the thing. They'll do it. They will literally heat press all night because their mentality is like, hey, if I outsource it, I'm paying an extra 30 cents, per print times whatever, 300 prints. It's $270, and I need to do it myself. And you see a lot of that. There's
Yeah.
there's there's some like I've seen shops that'll do like a run of like 300 or 400 caps on a single head, right? And I'm just like, you
Mhm.
could outsource it.
Dude.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
way cheaper, and
There's
you'll
so
get
many.
it done in like a day
Yeah.
or two. And now you're gonna be there for like, I don't know what, 2 weeks, but they do it.
Yeah. Forget about it. Hey, Zach, what are you seeing in terms of ink systems up there? Like, are you seeing, is Matsui, like, what's really crushing it? Are you seeing a push to water base or seeing a push to plastisol? Like, what's the mix? What's the ratio going on up there?
Well, I mean, I think the industry in general, like if you look at South America or Asia, like we all know they're like 90%, if not more, water based. And then you look at North America, the US, it's like flipped. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
90% plus, so probably not even 10%. And then Canada's even worse. It's like 2%. And everybody really wants to get into water based, right? For multiple reasons, right? They want to stand out from the competition, right? They want to do something that's more environmentally sustainable. They want to have a better hand feel, right? So there's lots of reasons why people want to, but they just don't know, how do I get this done? How do I do it? There's not as much in North America. There's not as much, I think, education. I mean, yeah, we have things like Made Lab that are out there that are trying to do this stuff, but there's always been a massive gap in education,
Yep.
I think, and attention focused on this. So you would have to take someone like Sean, who's very dedicated to his craft and obsessed with learning everything, to figure it out on his own because the support's not there. We're actually, I didn't think about to mention this, but Sean's coming up. We have our RB Digital Advanced Screen Print Training class. We have 120 people flying in from across the country. Yeah, it's a big shop.
It's
I was
incredible.
actually just talking to Ryan from Ryan. He's like, "Oh, you got 120? That's pretty good, man." So yeah, it's going to be a
That
big
is.
event. So
Here's the thing: we
yeah,
used to run those classes together, side by
Yep.
side. Like, if we got
sure.
40, it's like hell yeah! Like,
Well, this
that's
is the
great.
first one in Canada, so everyone's eager.
Yeah, man.
And
There's a lot of
we got
people.
Matsui flying up. We have Monarch flying up. Sati's already here. Actually,
Mhm.
Jesse lands in a couple hours. Chris Miles from Nortex coming up.
Yeah.
Jeff from Stampinator's coming up. So you got a lot of the heavy hitters in the industry coming in. We have a really good party on the Friday at RB Digital. We're going all out. We're going to record and photograph all this. We got golden tomahawks, oyster bars, live Cuban
Just send one
cigar
of those
rolling
bands. You
stations.
can just like expedite it down to Texas, man. Just saying.
Might be a little cold, but maybe I'll ship you a cigar. I don't know
Hey,
if they're Cubans, but I know they're a little tough to get out there in the States. So,
sounds good.
but yeah, so it's a really good networking event. Trying to get the industry to come together and get to know each other. And Jesse from Abbott, I did an interview with him, and he's like, I'm always about co-opetition, not
Mhm.
competition. And I think
Yeah.
this event is kind of testament to that. Get everyone together because you might have a screen print that doesn't do an embroidery, doesn't do DTF. So I'm hoping the plan of this is that we don't have any brawl fights. Everyone's like getting along and like,
There's always connections, especially when
Yep.
when you're in the battlefield together, having a sounding board of like, hey man, have you seen this shit? Like
oh
like
yeah,
tell me I'm not crazy. Like, like
yeah.
that's how those lifelong bonds are established for sure.
For sure. So that's a Friday. Then the Saturday, Sunday, it's 2 8-hour full day shops. Like Keith Perkins from Sati, he's going to spend 2.5 hours teaching on how to create a proper screen. And then, Jesse's going to be there talking with Ian from Monarch and talking about, hey, you're not ready to jump into 100% water-based. Well, why don't we start with like discharge with plastic on top, do some hybrid printing, that's easy. Let's start with that. And we're going to do some, puff with water-based, and a whole bunch. We basically have 6 different autos and a manual, and every single press is going to be running something different, a different type of print. And then we have some foil going on with the new manual stampinator on the manual press. So we're trying to do some, really cool things that no one in Canada has really tried. Everyone will print their own shirt. They're going to take it home with them. So now they got like a sales tool to go back to their boss, their employees, be like, hey, what do you guys think of this? This is awesome. Can we sell it? So they're going to have that in there as well. Some really cool discounts. But really, it's all about having the specialists come in one place and really teach people who, to be frank, have never really been taught properly.
Yeah.
I was dealing with a shop today who she's really struggling with her emulsion. And I asked her what kind of emulsion she's using. I'm like, it's a textile emulsion. She's like, yeah, of course it's textile emulsion. I've been screen printing for 15 years. I'm like, okay, what's the name? And she's like, let me go check. And I type it in. I'm like, GraphX emulsion. Okay. So, and we see a lot of this, and it's just like the dealers are not, and sure, you can make it work, but not the way that she's trying to. She's trying to get a
Yeah.
thick enough stencil. So it's the emulsion's literally falling off, and she's not using a
There's not enough
degreaser. And
solids.
she's been printing for 35 years. So she's had this emulsion for 15 years, but she's been doing it for 35. And why? Because I've said this before, dealers are not willing, a lot of dealers, not everyone. I mean, sure, some dealers do a great job. The majority of the dealers are not willing to invest in the resources, the personnel, the classes to teach people. And it's easier to just take your order that you've been submitting every single month and ship it, instead of saying, hey, Sean, listen, I know you've been using this white for a long time, but there's a new white, and I know it's making my job more difficult to educate you on it, but I think you
But
should
it's
give it a
the right
shot.
thing to do. Right.
Yeah. And shout out to GraphX. They are actually one of the last minute sponsors, because I didn't think about it until Jesse from Matsui and Jeff are like, hey, this event is in like 4 days, and we have like 6 advanced, steps I need to get. Who's doing this? And right away, I'm like, Nick Wood. I call Nick. I'm like, Nick, call me. I have a project, something I didn't think of. We got to get this done. And then like, boom, we got on a call. Everything separated. Boom, ready to go. So
I love it, like, being the like ripcord to like come in like, hey, I got this. And granted, I can't take any credit for this. It's all like our separations team, but those are the calls that I love, where it's like, hey, like, let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You drop everything and just like get on it. So,
and it was a perfect like testament to your service, like last minute advanced steps. No, we didn't think about this. And then you guys, it's like, what machines they're running? And we're like, okay, we got 2 Gauntlet 3s. We got a Sportsman, yada, 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 yada. How many flashes? How many, here we got a Stampinator. We got, so they looked at all the equipment that we had, and then they take a look at the artwork, and they're like, okay, maybe we got to like slim this one down, take out a color, whatever. And they're able to, hopefully, I mean, we'll see how this event goes, but Keith Perkins is degreasing the screens right now. And then Jesse flies in tonight, and they're going to start shooting it on the eye images. So hopefully everything goes good. And if something doesn't on one of the presses, you know what? It's a learning experience. Like, nothing goes perfect, right? I'm sure something's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The best time we learn is, like, for example, when we went to Made Lab, I brought one of my press operators, and he told me afterwards, like, hey, I like the way they were troubleshooting. I like the way they were thinking when something wasn't going right. And I didn't think about that, because in my mind, when I was screen printing, every time there was a mistake, it made sense to me just to troubleshoot the same way. But maybe as an operator or as an employee or as a staff, you don't think about those things. You're like, something's wrong. Oh, what's happening? To see it in action actually helps, to see somebody troubleshoot and like work around the press. Okay, what's happening? Play with the flash. Oh, speed might be too slow. Speed might be too fast. Oh, what's the off contact? What's the tension on this screen? Did we do a palette print? Maybe the registration's off. It's great to see the troubleshooting and like where they're starting and the checklist they go through. So for like the press operator, was great for him, because now he brought it in the shop, and that's what he does when something goes wrong. So I love that. Didn't even think of that.
And there's a lot of new variables that we're testing here for the first time. Like, the shop's never run EcoFrames with the Sati mesh. They've never run any water-based. They've never run discharge. They're trying a new emulsion. So there's a lot of new going on, but I think we got a pretty good roster of guys to make sure everything gets dialed in, hopefully. But yeah, I think it's going to be an amazing experience. I think coming out of this, just this one event, we're going to start to see a big uptick in water-based discharge. I mean, we got like we got a lot of customers using it. Like, I don't know, if I were to guesstimate, like maybe like 70 or 80 users. But then you got a couple guys that are really using it. Some guys just use it for the occasional job. They're like, oh, I'll just use a bright
Yeah.
discharge white or something like that, just one SKU. But then you got guys like Sean, Imprint Montreal, Alex, who's coming, Corey from Floodway, who's flying in, Orrin from Trademark, using it on his digital squeegee. So there's some shops that have really taken it, and have almost gone all 100% water based. I mean, Sean doesn't do any more plastisol at all, right, Sean?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
I think
Awesome.
for like, just to jump in, dive into water-based inks, it's like, it's completely different ball game. And if you have a large press, it's a lot simpler. You think about everybody in Asia, everybody in Europe, they usually have a large press. And especially like in Asia, like their labor is super cheap, right? So they don't mind having 2-3 people. I call them the roamers just around the machine to just add more inks, right? They're roamers. They just roam and add ink, add ink. They're just looking at the press, but their labor is cheap. Our labor here is not cheap. So water-based inks is a bit different and it's a bit harder to do. So if you don't have that massive press, that's a 10, 8, 10, 12 color press, maybe start with discharge with plastisol on top. It's going to be a lot easier to get your feet wet into it, and then work onto a big press, right? Having a larger press, having those dry areas, having those more flashes, having those cool down stations helps tremendously with water-based inks. Controlling your your palettes and just being able to print wet on wet because your palettes are at the perfect temperature, things like that. Like it's hard to learn when you have a 4 or 6 color press and with no cool down stations. You're like, oh, this is always sticking on under my, like, I don't want to work with this anymore. It's crazy. It's different. You have to be able to adapt and want to go through that. And it's not to say that you need to do it if you want to make money. It's a niche market, right? For retail brands that want really high stuff, it's better to do, in my opinion, I like it better to do SEP, assimilated process, because I don't get any dot gain. And wet on wet is super simple with that. I like the hand feel of it too. It's for like, and again, there's so many modifiers with plastisol inks nowadays that you can get amazing prints with plastisol. Like, look at Printed Threads. They print 95% of their jobs with plastisol, and they're all high detail, high definition stuff. They put a lot of additive in their ink. They put matte finish, which costs a lot of money. The matte additive is super expensive, but it looks beautiful. Like, to be honest, some of their prints, I think it looks better with plastisol than it would with water-based inks. Like, it doesn't have any sheen at all to it. It's not rubbery. It depends what you want to do and what you want to feel with it. Like,
I mean,
there's a market.
Like Ricky and Pierre from Press Time. I don't know if you know who they are, Sean. They're actually going to be at the shop. They put out some really, really, really good product. I'm actually thinking of eventually doing a class there with them as well, having them as the host. But they've been doing it for a long time. The discharge with the Monarch on top. They run the Matsui with the Monarch. I forget what discharge they used to use. They had a lot of inconsistencies, and they used to use a different plastisol. I think it was Rutland, and I got them onto the Monarch. It's taken them a long time to really get things dialed in, and they're really dedicated, but they're putting plastisol, but it's really nice. And again, you're getting rid of that white underbase, which is the majority of the hand. So if you could discharge the base, and run with a plastisol on top, you're gonna get a really, really nice print. So plastisol is not going anywhere either.
No.
Sean, man, you brought up such a good point in that, in that it's like, I think the real value of that class is going to be the things that, like, hey, this needs to be tweaked. Cause I tried to take that same approach with the Roundnet classes, where it wasn't the easy bake oven. You know what I mean? It's presto changeo, like, cause that's not real life. You know what I mean? Like, if it's rare when it's that easy, when it's like first time around, you hit it like 100% out of the gate. Like that, those are the isolated incidents, not like the majority of the time. So yeah, bro, that's a nugget right there, man.
It was for us, and I didn't even know it going into it, right? I was like, okay, he's going to learn about it. Like, I've talked to him a lot, but just focusing on it for 2 days is going to be really good for him. And when we, on the flight back, he was like, hey, the way he did that, the way he troubleshoot, the way, like, you see what happened to them, it happened to me too. Like, so he was able to relate. I think that was the best part of it. Like, oh, okay, they're really good, and they're still troubleshooting some stuff. They're still adjusting the speed. Temperature palette. I think that's the biggest learning curve for an operator and for a shop owner as well. And that's where you see, like, okay, I'm normal, I'm human, but how are they fixing it? If you can go in your mindset and not think that you're a big shot, oh, I'm better than them. Because if you go in there and you see them working on something and it's troubleshooting, and in your mind you're like, oh, I'm better than that, that doesn't happen to me, you're not going to learn anything. And
Nick,
what are you going to gain from that, right?
Nick,
If you have that mindset, don't go to a class.
Yeah.
It's worthless.
I literally, I mean, there's some customers where I'm like, they would really benefit from this, right? And the majority of the customers I
Everybody
called,
would.
and they're like, oh yeah, for sure, this is amazing. I mean, normally I'd have to fly out to the US, spend thousands of dollars. You know, I'm not getting golden tomahawks. This definitely seems like it's a good idea, right? And then, but I probably had, I don't know, 50 or 70 shops. They're like, we don't think we're going to learn anything. There's no point in us going there.
Oh,
And I'm like,
Bro.
okay, Keith Perkins has spent 37 years working with emulsion.
He's a genius.
You are not going to learn anything? Like,
he's
come on.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, he is.
Yeah, man.
He's my my go-to if I have a question that something I'm stumped on. Give him a call, and he's like, "Yep, done." You know,
he's so knowledgeable, but not just about emulsion, about like your humidity, about your darkroom, about your inks, the way you're printing, the off contact that's going to stretch your screen that much % more if the off contact is that much higher. Like, there's so many things that you don't think about. Oh, your squeegee angle, what is it at? And how is it hitting in your mesh? Oh, what screen size are you using? Because you're using a 16-inch wide squeegee, but your screens are 23 by, okay. So then the angle, I was like, what are you, like, you're nuts. I was like, I like this conversation. You're kind of like me. I was like, okay, now we're diving into it. Let's go. So
it's funny because some of the first times I had questions, I'm like, hey, Keith, this is the problem that's going on right now with the shop. He's like, what's your humidity? I'm like, I don't know. It's not my shop. He's like, how do you want me to help you if you don't know their humidity? I'm like, no one's ever asked me what humidity they have. He's like, well, this is part of the troubleshooting process. I'm like, hey, what else do I need to know? He's like, ask him these 12 things. I'm like, okay. And actually, we're building out something on our website when this class is over, but we're trying to create an easy way for customers when they because like me as a dealer, I struggle to figure out the exact perfect emulsion, right, for my customer. So we're trying to create like a tool where basically it'll be like the emulsion selector. You'll type in what type of exposure unit, what type of bulb, what type of environment, boom, 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 and it'll spit out like, hi, 5 of these might work for you. So it's another little fun project, that we'll work on. I figured it'd be so Keith is basically giving me all the parameters that would help dictate the selection of emulsion. And then we'll say, okay, with this emulsion, buy this and this and this. And here's the thing. Yeah. So should be fun. Yeah. Should be a fun little project for us. So we'll hopefully get that up and running shortly.
Props for you to putting that on though, man. Like, I know like any class like that takes a ton of effort. It's not like organizing everybody. Herding the cats until it finally actually happens is a whole another animal, bro. So like, I have to give you the
there's a lot of people coming. So if you miss one thing, like for example, we have outdoor heaters for the Cuban cigar smoking outside, right? And then the guys like they built these outdoor heaters and they put the propane tanks. And then I go to grab one of the propane tank. I'm like, why is this so light? And they're like, I don't know, they're brand new. I'm like, they're not even filled. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, oh my God. It's like,
just hook up one of the gas.
I forget to order a fork. Yeah. It's like, there's just so many things that have to hopefully go right. All these things I've had to order. And luckily I got Rob, who's part of the RB Digital team, and he's helped getting everything dialed in.
He's been a beast to work with, man. He was like Johnny on the spot with getting all that art over. Like I was really impressed with, it was just like,
He makes stuff happen. He keeps me in line. I got all these ideas, and I'm like, hang on, let me reel you in over here, crazy guy. Let me bring you back down to planet Earth. So awesome. Well, Nick, I hope you can make it out to the next event. I know this one was you only got a 4-day heads up, and I think your schedule was booked, but definitely for the next event.
There's some big stuff moving and shaking down here, man. Like that show wasn't just like the busiest. Like there was some big stuff that projects that are going to be kind of outlining for the rest of the year.
So what's coming? What's happening in GraphX work?
What's coming down the pipeline?
Great question. So with our Adobe classes, like we've always kind of run it like a 30 artist deficit, meaning that we've had 30 shops that have always been in the queue, and it's usually anywhere from like 2 weeks to 3 weeks to place an artist. So our goal for 2024 is to like narrow that down to 2 weeks maximum. So like 30 people graduating every single quarter with guaranteed jobs. That's
Wow.
like our, and we're sticking to it too. So these are, print trained. Yes, we have down in the Honduras location, we have an embroidery machine. We have a screen printing press down there too. So like not only with the Adobe certification, we're putting them on press. This is why you
They're
travel.
learning.
Why,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
exactly. Like they're taking the Sean
Oh, you
method.
guys have automatics in your facility as
No,
well?
different manual. Actually, I wonder if I
Oh,
can
manual,
share.
whatever. Presses. You guys got presses. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Hey, go ahead,
yeah.
share.
Yeah, I'll see if I can't. Here, let me see if I can't share this little window right here. So let's see here.
There we go.
What do you guys see on my screen? Is it like the
A
overhead
door.
view?
No, I see
Yeah.
a door.
Oh shoot. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. All right. Yeah. So
That's
this
the
is
video.
Yep. That's a little screen printing
Ah,
service.
that's a
where they-
cruiser. I didn't sell you that.
Yeah. Next time.
Next time.
Yeah. So
That's nice.
yeah. Just so they can go through and like really kind of get trained up, and this is why you do this. This is why you do that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. It's more so just for training and stuff like that. But
Ah, this stuff's
Let's-
important.
That's why they
it
get their
helps them
heads
wrap
on
their
it.
head around it. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
here, let me
Totally.
see if I can't share. I want to show you guys the location down in Honduras. Let's see if I can't just share the entire screen and then. Okay, you guys probably got the infinity
Yep.
screen. Okay, so can you guys see this video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you blow it up?
This
There you
is the facility down there. So this was shot a little while ago too, when we were about 340. But I'll show you kind of some of the other areas.
Hey, just lower the volume.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's our 6th floor right there. That's kind of where the majority of everything started.
Wow.
It's massive.
Yeah, bro, our 7th floor. So what you're gonna see
What?
here, that area is all filled out back over there. So that was another 180 seats.
Jeez.
Yep. So these are all of our high-end separators right here. There's Fernando worked at a shop with 26 automatics. This gentleman right here, his dad is the head technician for M&R down in Honduras, which he always
wow.
gets all the time. Robert's our VP of operations. He's the one that ran the big shop here in Texas. And then these are all sim process separators back there. So
Very cool.
it's kind of,
You got a nice
Claimed
view too.
yeah, the view is
Yeah.
gorgeous.
I gotta come work for you guys.
Bro,
Yeah.
their office
The
is
office
nice.
is
Dallas
insane.
office, like 100%.
Beautiful. Hey, well done,
So,
man. You guys deserve it.
Yeah.
So this is the academy that was getting built out, and then the screen printing section, and then this whole area is full. We have the entire 7th floor now, so which is crazy, my guys. So
Looks
That's
good, man.
crazy.
Well, listen, for those of users that don't have any experience with GraphX, Nick, I'm sure you'll get me some type of coupon code we could put on there. We'll put in the bio. They can give it a shot, click it, and I think you guys usually give one free SEP or something for free or something. Kind of give them a taste of the good life, right?
Now you got
Keep
to,
them
right?
coming back.
Well, I mean,
Awesome.
think about it, right? The only thing they do is SEPs and art prep and things like that. And the only thing you have to do is train your artists, right? Your art team.
Yeah.
Us as shop owners, if we want to hire an art department person, we're still running the shop. We're still doing a bunch of other things, right? So
Yeah.
obviously our art person is not going to be as good. Why? Because we're going to be focusing on systematizing so many other things in our business. GraphX or any art team or whatever company is doing that, their focus is to have really good artists.
Yep.
So when you're focusing about making a really good print, think about GraphX.
Yep.
Their focus is to make sure that their art team is really good. So that's all they do, right? So I
Awesome.
think you should try it out. I didn't think about the coupon code, but like this is smart, and I'm definitely
Hey man, I think I got some ideas on the fly. Last episode was the Stampinator Mythbuster, and this time I figured
That's the Stampinator. Enlighten me on this one.
you don't watch the Stampinator episode. I mean, I have so many people that I tell them the things a Stampinator could do. There was like, I don't know, 7 myths, and one of them was just is Jeff Fiorucci a good guy? So that was kind of BS. But the other 6 were like just things that people are like, oh, the Stampinator can't do. So I just did on the spot Stampinator Mythbuster. But yeah, you got to watch that episode. So
That's
Nick,
cool.
you got a lot of pressure this weekend, man. I mean, we got 120 shops saying you're the shit. So we really hope that these screen steps work out.
I mean, here's the thing: sample first. But if we need to adjust anything on the fly, like I said, just let me know.
I think we'll get stuff on press by Friday, so we'll have time. we'll have like 4-hour window for you to help us get all presses dialed in if
Hey,
there's any issues.
we're playing with sand. So
Thanks, buddy.
but yeah, guys, dude, I love the pod. Keep it up, my guys. Like it's
Thank you.
you two are idols.
We're definitely going to have you on again. It's fun just to talk
Yeah, it's a good
talk
one.
about the industry. I think this was a good one. It was fun. I enjoyed it. That's for sure. Enjoyed talking to you guys. Enjoy you guys. So have a good rest of your day. And hey, guys, it's episode 6. We're on a roll right now. We're just grinding every single week.
We got some other ones in the queue, but we're
I know.
Can't
It's
release
not
those
good.
yet. They're coming.
So
coming.
hey,
no, this one's going up next.
Apple,
this one's bumping the line a little bit.
Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube. We also post some short reel content on Instagram. Zach, I didn't tell you this, but I was able to, with the AI, made a bunch of short clips from our last episode. So we're going to go and launch a TikTok too this week.
Cool. I don't know. I don't even have a TikTok account, but apparently RB Digital has one since last week. I just don't know how to log in or access or what TikTok looks like, but enlighten me. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And yeah, we're looking forward to the next one. See ya.
Ciao, guys.
See you guys.